them at the end of this presentation. And we're going to be doing, I just want to take you through very briefly through the whole process of mindfulness and thinking about meditation and going within and taking time to be still and quiet and looking at consciousness and how it works with us in everyday life. So after that, we'll do a short meditation, and then you'll go into drawing a mandala. Now, I think, Jean, you're going to put the pages of sheets out on the table. Get the tables out. Is that okay? So I'm going to have to be quick, smart with the presentation, aren't I? So that you get a chance to do all the work. So what is mindfulness? Well, there's so much about mindfulness these days in the psychology field. But one definition is that mindfulness is the practice of purposefully bringing one's attention to the present moment without evaluation. And so it's noting. Mindfulness is just not wanting to change anything. It's noting what is there and say, oh, this is here. I will just participate in this thing, whatever it is. It's the focus, it's the focus of developing this through meditation, but also carrying the meditation into everyday life. And mindfulness training finds that it can enhance our well-being and satisfaction with life. And I'm actually currently running a mindfulness course online for Goodwin Aged Care down here, which is a great, exciting thing because this is going into the homes of elderly people who are still living in their own homes and being encouraged to participate in the idea of putting mindfulness into their everyday life. And we all get so busy, you know, that we forget about mindfulness. So there are two basic states of consciousness. There's the doing, oh, sorry, you've read that. There's the doing state and there's the being state. And this builds resilience and, sorry, I'm not following the slide. Yeah, I'll just probably talk, you know, and watch the slides and I'll just talk, I think. And of course, mindfulness is part of creativity. And creativity is a very important part of our brain. We all have that facility in our brain to be able to think outside the square. And we do. Thank you. I'm sort of, I've turned away from the microphone. I thought it was coming from here. Oh, okay. Right. So what is doing mode? Doing mode is helping us carry out our daily activities. We do them automatically. We form habits and life choices, and we make them in an instant, a flash. And we know when we go out of this building, those of you who are driving, we put the key in the ignition and we turn on the car and off we go. And it's all very automatic. But if you break down that activity, it's actually quite complex. So we don't think about brushing our teeth and driving our car and all of that kind of thing. But if we did start to think about it, and this is what mindfulness actually teaches us, to hold a raisin in the palm of our hand. And that's one of the first exercises, and to look at it from every aspect and to feel it and taste it and see it. And as if we've never seen one before. And when we do that, the grass is greener, the sky's bluer, and we become more aware of what's going on around us, because a lot of our lives go through an unconscious process where we think and we work. We have to do these things. They're part of everyday life. And if we actually had to think about them all the time, we would never get anything done. So these tasks just come naturally. But then there's the being mode. Now, the being mode is a whole different ballgame altogether. The being mode is bringing us right here into this present moment. So we're all participating in this one moment together. It's a group thing. It's a conscious awareness of what's going on around us. This is where we make conscious choices in this moment. And we make our intentions and we decide what we're going to do, and we build purposefulness and meaning in our lives through consciousness. And mindfulness helps us to build that resilience and develop better empathy and understanding through the making of conscious choices. And then that carries on to the doing mode. And so if we can pay attention to each moment as it goes by with a natural curiosity, we notice more about our lives. And this has actually been shown to restructure our brains, which is quite a remarkable thing. The Dalai Lama started doing that with his monks about 30 years ago. He decided that the world needed to know what happened to a monk when he meditated for about 18 hours a day. Well, none of us here could ever do that. Could you? I couldn't. But they can. And so they were able to go into the laboratory and meditate in the laboratory with the EEG things on their heads. And so we learned what it does. And meditation actually does restructure and calm the brain down so that it creates more blood flow, and it gets the structures of the brain talking to each other better. And that opens us up to more positive experiences of happiness and contentment and understanding ourselves and understanding others and having compassion and so on and so forth. So, next one. So there's a lot of talk these days about resilience, isn't there? But what really is resilience? These are some of the strengths of it. It's a faculty we've got. It's an ability we build to feel safe in our bodies, to feel who we are and how we operate in the world. And so here are some aspects of resilience that we can build as we build resilience. So it's insight and independence and building positive relationships and understanding each other and having initiative, not being indecisive. This is one of the aspects of a person having a lot of depression, that they can't decide what to do with their lives and what step to take next. And being creative. And some people say, oh, you're creative, but I'm not. But that's actually not true, because we're all creative. We all have something to offer. And we just have to find that creative part of us. We can all laugh at ourselves and at the world. And we all build a moral sense of responsibility and ethics and how to behave. So creativity actually helps us to be more nurturing and to be more facilitating of doing things and to build an understanding, a liking of ourselves and increase coping skills. And it helps us to address existing concerns, so we can problem solve better. Because we're confident of ourselves. So creativity also provides distraction from dealing with painful circumstances. So if we can think, problem solve, and we're in a difficult situation, we can usually find a way through that. And that builds resilience. It gives us opportunities to reshape reality and formulate future goals and changes. And I think that's an extremely important part of it, so that we can understand ourselves better and the world around us. Now let's get on to mindfulness now, because I'm not going to go too far into that right now, because we mostly know this. So when we practice mindfulness, we build self-awareness and resilience. And there are three basic factors in mindfulness training: cultivating the breath, steadying awareness, using reflections by observing your conscious mind in formulating conscious choices. So one of the most, as a counsellor and psychotherapist, I often do a lot of psychometric testing. And one of the questions is, can you make choices? Can you make decisions? And a lot of people with depression and anxiety find it difficult to make decisions. And that's okay. I've been there myself at times. So let's get on to the mandalas, because that's what we're here for. So what is a mandala? Well, Jung discovered this back in the 1960s. He just started doodling, and he was an artist. He loved his art, and he started to draw. And he started to look at his drawing. What is this? What have I drawn? And he started to wonder, the symbolism of that. What's the symbolism of a circle? And the different shapes, a triangle and a square. And how do they all fit in with one another? And then, you know, the mandala is everywhere in nature. It's found in all our cells around. The earth is round, the sun and moon are round. We've got the family circle. We talk about the family circle. We talk about our circle of friends, our social circle, and the community circle. So everything is round. And this roundness actually talks about unity, psychic unity. It helps us to bring, Jung said, if you draw a mandala, you're bringing the structures of your psyche together. If your psyche is fragmented, it comes together in a mandala. Now, mandalic images can arise spontaneously in dreams and images and creative expression. And it's part of the psyche's inherent mechanism for healing that kind of, when we talk about somebody just not being able to cope very well. And all of us have been there at one point or another, but some people find it very difficult to continue in the ordinary way without some treatment. And that helps us there. And it really is very, very useful. I have a few examples of some mandalas that I've used with my clients. Jung himself, when he discovered this, he said he sketched in a notebook a small circular drawing, which he called the mandala, and seemed to correspond with his inner situation at the time. And with the help of these drawings, I could observe my psychic transformation from day to day. So he did it every day for about a month, I think it was. Now, my process of therapy, I do, and I don't just do this, but, you know, I usually encourage people to give it a go anyway. We might talk about the person's story. Everyone has a story. A story is a myth. Myths are part of our psychic process and our psychic transformation. And within the myth are archetypes. And they come to light in the counselling process. It amazes me at times when I hear a person's story and I can hear them. I can hear the story, the myth coming out. I can hear it. I'm thinking, this is like the story of the handless maiden or Iron John or something. You know, it just comes out. It's all in there. It's quite transformational for me. I get quite excited inside. And these myth stories are evoked by the counselling process, but they are influencing the mandala work. And I think that music also helps with the inspiration of that. Now, my mandala process, which is only part of, I don't do mandalas with every client, but when I do, and I think the need to do it, this is usually how it goes. issues are discussed. I say to the person, would you like to do a mandala? Would you like, well, if you do, let's do a little quick meditation, and then you can draw the mandala. Maybe we do some vocal work or drumming, maybe we won't. It's not always appropriate. They're given some crayons and a circle on a page, and they do the mandala. And usually I say to them, would you like to discuss your mandala, or is it just for you? So it's up to them to decide to do that. And then I encourage them to keep a journal. Keeping a journal is an extremely important way of helping your own psyche transform. And Jung did this for many years, and so have I. I've actually been journaling for something like 30 years. I haven't gone back to the 30-year entry. I should really see where I was then, but I can actually see my growth or some breakdowns along the way through the journaling. I can see where I've come from and what I'm doing and why I'm where I am, if you know what I mean. So journaling is a wonderful way. If you don't journal, I encourage you to journal. You've got to get a special book. It's got to be your own book. So the idea of journaling, and also you can do little circles in your journaling too if you wanted to do some symbolism there. So with the mandalas, some of my clients have chosen to do quilting. Now, when this lady turned up with this, I actually have that as a tablecloth, not a table, it's a small, it's just like a coffee table cover. She gave it to me. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful the way she's done that. And that she put it together as a quilt, little quilting thing. And she didn't think she meant anything by it, but she used to come and throw these incredible quilts on the floor and say, this means that, that means this means that. And she had a meaning for every single part of the material. You know, she went through that phase. She's been a client of mine now for 6 years. She went through that phase for 2 or 3 years, and it was really intense. And now she doesn't do any. And Jung was the same. He did his mandalas every day for about a month and kept on going for about 4 years. And then he didn't do any more. He just looked at his patients' mandalas after that. So it seems that we need to do these things in moments of psychic growth and transformation. And it's the creative brain coming out and saying, yes, have a look at this and grow from it and learn from it. So I think that's the important thing. And this is just an example of one of my own mandalas, which I drew in because I was going through an intensive period in my life where I was looking at myths, and I was looking at the Demeter and Persephone myth, the mother and the daughter, and the relationship of the feminine relationship of women and two women. And the mother-daughter relationship, as you know, is a very intense one. And it's interesting because it came out as an eye. And I put the all-seeing eye, Demeter, but the eye of Demeter, looking at the world and observing it. Now, the next slide I want to talk to you very quickly about is a wonderful woman who has Parkinson's, and she's only in her 60s. And she's been just extremely ill. She's just come home from 6 weeks in hospital, but most of the time she deals with it quite well. She became an artist after she developed Parkinson's, and she was in her late 40s when this happened. And she was a hairdresser, and she'd been running a very creative hairdressing salon, very successful one. And she found that she couldn't cut hair anymore because her left hand wouldn't work properly. So she had to give that up. And then shortly after that, she had this urge to paint. And she didn't even know that she had such a skill for it. And this painting is an image of one of her neurologists. And she took it into him and she asked him, could I have a photo of you? Could I do your portrait? And he said yes. And so she went and painted him. He actually has that portrait sitting in his office now. And people say, oh, who did that? And, oh, a patient of mine did that. So that was a very, very intensive. So she hasn't done mandalas so much as the creative urge in her has been to look at faces. She can't get beyond faces. That's a sketching of her grandson. And now she's come out of hospital, I'm urging her to get to with the paints and start painting this little boy. And the next one is her granddaughter, which I think is an extraordinary painting, which I'm quite sure would do well in the Archibald. It's so good. That's her little granddaughter. She's 4. And she's amazing. She's an amazing artist. But she didn't know she had that faculty until she developed this neurological disease. So it's interesting how the brain works. It's interesting how creativity works and how the mind goes to the mandalas as a way of dealing with these difficulties in life. Now, I just wanted to, probably some of you have heard of this story before, but looking at mandalas, this is a woman's awakening. And I want to look at her again because she's a very, very important case history. This woman was totally regressed. She'd had a severe mental breakdown and she was totally regressed. And I started her on I gave her a page and I asked her to draw a circle. And in that circle, she wrote empty. And from there, her drawings became better and better. There she is there, and she's saying, I must be heard. I must be heard because I've been silent for about 20 years and I must be heard. She started coming out of her shell, and I met her in an aged care facility. And I think that the mandala, the drawing and the meditations was what got her there. And this one was a real revelation to her because she said, I didn't know that I drew an ear, and she had hearing impairment. So she wore hearing aids in both ears. And I didn't know I drew this ear. Now I can see 2 ears. This is remarkable. I'm hearing more than I thought I was. And so that mandala, I see these as mandalas, even though they're not in the circle. And this one was very, very angry and traumatized. And that was her awakening. And from then on, that moment onwards, and today she still is back in her life again. And she's just normal now. She lives a normal life. We're in touch all the time. She's coming down to Canberra in a month's time. I'm hoping to bring her here to the next meeting if she's going to be here. You can meet her. She's a wonderful woman and living a very normal life. And this was the mandala that got her there. After that, I thought she'd go the other way, but she came back the next week, bounced in, and it's been nothing but upwards all the way. She's just leading a normal life now. And there she is now. Isn't that a transformation? And through mandala work, it was through that, she called them scribbles. And they probably were scribbles, but I saw them as her child, the inner child that hadn't grown up, developing and growing and becoming the person that she is today. She's no artist, but then you don't have to be an artist to be able to draw a mandala. So the value of mandalas lies in their therapeutic and life-changing impact from where I'm sitting. They can be a very beautiful artistic creation, but every creation of a mandala that's drawn for therapy, or it's drawn out of the impulse of the psyche that's going to create beauty and lines and shapes and images. Every single mandala tells a story, and it tells a story of us. And we are our own stories, and we have our stories. And we express our unconscious processes through that, the power of that. So I hope that you can understand that the mandala is a thing of great importance in our psychological development, and that's how I see it. And it brings us to a point. Many times I've gone back on my own mandalas and I've looked at one and I thought, oh, I didn't realise that. That mandala is telling me something about my health or something about a problem I had, and I hadn't seen that. I can go back and look at it. That's the value of a piece of artwork like a mandala. You can put it up there and let it talk to you after. In a few weeks' time, it'll come back. So I'm watching the clock. We're going to do a watching the breath meditation. We're going to be mindful. We use mindfulness to cultivate the breath. The first thing we do is cultivate the breath. Now, give yourself 2 seconds to just close your eyes and listen to your breathing. And ask yourself, what is my breathing doing? My breathing is breathing all its way into the body, just breathing. Are you breathing fast? Are you breathing slow? Is it steady? Is it a little bit uneven? Is there a pause between the in-breath and the out-breath? Is it erratic? When we bring our awareness to such a thing as the breathing, which is an automatic process, it can transform us. It brings us into the self. The constellation of thoughts and feelings and behaviours are all in the breath, coming in and going out of the body, just like the ocean comes in and out of the ocean onto the shore. Then that allows us to observe and allows us to say, what's happening in my body? Have I got a sharp pain here? Have I got somewhere else here? And my thoughts are intruding into me. Do I have thoughts that take me off? After I leave here, I've got to go to the shops, or tomorrow I have to go and see that doctor, or those sorts of things, or get the car fixed. Or can you keep in the moment and stay with yourself and bring your thoughts gently back to that one thing, which is the breath coming in through the nostrils, going down the back of the throat, the gentle rise and fall of the chest, and being mindful of just that process. It's just there. It steadies everything. It steadies everything we believe in, everything that we are, our self-identity, who we are, where we've come from, keeps anchored in awareness, in noticing, in observing, distinguishing between what is actually happening in the present moment to what is merely a pattern from the past. It's using reflections by observing your consciousness, formulating choices. Reflective investigation leads to what psychologists call witness awareness, or observing the ego. That's the healthy functioning of the executive function of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. And the observing ego allows us to notice our experience, to tune into that felt self sense of it, stepping back from our experience a bit and reflecting on it, not judgmentally and objectively. Then investigating for ourselves, using that faculty of awareness and consciousness and saying to ourselves, is this true or is this not true, of what we're noticing and what works for us and what doesn't work in what we're observing. It helps us to investigate what is and what isn't. Is this story I'm hearing, I'm believing it right now? Are these personal narratives about us? Do we confabulate? We probably always do. But how much of it is truth and how much of it is where it is, skewed, filtered by previous beliefs, shaped by previous conditioning, responding objectively and rationally? We need to be able to see all things in the light of reason and rationality. And so that is how we're going to now start watching the breath. So just focus on my voice coming in and your breath coming in and going out. No more sounds in the room, just aware of yourself sitting in the chair. Feeling the breath is a natural rhythm and flow. Not trying to change your breath, just letting it come in and out of your body. Let your attention gather within the even rhythm of your breath. Become aware of the air coming through the nostrils, the little hairs in the nostrils filtering the air. Become aware of it going down the back of the throat and the gentle rise and fall of the breath as the air comes in and goes out. Let your breath slow your body down more and more. Nothing to do but breathe and relax. Breathe and relax. Just listening to the music and my voice flowing on and on. Steady and quiet. All is well in this moment. Just here, just now. And if you find your mind wandering as you do this, simply notice and bring it back to where it went, gently escorting it into the present moment again, back to your breath, coming in and going out of the body. A natural rhythm and flow, like waves on the seashore, coming in and going out. Feel your body well supported in the chair you're sitting in. Let your legs become warm and relaxed. Any sudden sensations like a pain or a twitch, just notice them and let them go. Moving your awareness to your pelvis and lower back. Breathe into this area. Becoming aware of any discomfort or pain. Approaching it with awareness. Breathing in. Breathing out. Letting go of discomfort and letting it dissolve like clouds in the sky. Relaxing, releasing all muscle tension, allowing your body to sink deeply into the chair. Any thoughts of doing things like shopping lists, just acknowledge them and let them vaporize away, returning to your breath, coming in and going out. Just be in this moment. This is the being mode. just now. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to do but breathe and relax. Breathe and relax. Just watching your breath, breathing into your body, watching the air going through the nostrils, down the back of the throat, the chest rising and falling. If the breath is getting colder, notice, does it get colder going in and warmer coming out? Notice all these sensations and all the time returning to your breath, the anchor of who you are. Do you breathe lightly or quicker? Does your breathing change as you watch it? Is there a pause between the in-breath and the out-breath? Just watching the patterns of your breath and letting go of any sensations that you might experience, just as thoughts distracting you or twitches of pain. Acknowledge them and let them go. Let them float away from you into the air, dissolving like clouds in the sky. All the time returning to your breath. Just letting your breath come and letting it go. Slower and slower, deeper and deeper. Now begin to allow yourself to come back into the room, to become lighter and lighter. Become aware of the people in the room, the space in the room, your body sitting in the chair, feeling yourself back in your body, becoming lighter and lighter. Back in the room now, taking a deep breath. Open your eyes and know that you have given yourself a gift of just going away for 2 seconds and coming back. How do you feel? So it's 9:15, and it would be nice if you could now feel that you could go and draw a mandala, to just draw an impression of how you feel. When you go there and you see a crayon, whichever crayon takes your fancy, pick it up before somebody else does. And let the crayon draw for you, and draw as your unconscious mind comes out. You've just taken a travel into your unconscious mind. Let that unconscious mind become yourself. Now, where are we going to put these papers? We're going to have some supper, but I'd like you to just get hold of, maybe get your paper. And it is a sacred part of us. The inner part of us is always a sacred part of us. I'm seeing some amazing mandalas here, you know, like every single one of us is so individual and so different, and we have a uniqueness about us that's in our genes, you know. None of us are the same. We might be one species, but we're certainly a complete variations on a species for each one of us. So how did you feel about doing that? Was it a good thing? Yeah? Did you feel your thought processes came out in your mandala? Yeah.
I was surprised when I started that I had no idea how it would finish.
That's right.
So it sort of evolved. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing that creative process can do that? And if you can trust the creative process.
I'd better not try writing crime novels on that basis.
I think Agatha Christie used to talk about her murder mysteries like that. She'd say, I don't know, I didn't expect it to turn out this way, you know. So everything is destiny in a way, isn't it? We start from this point of now, and we always live in a now, but then this now becomes another now and another now, but we're always in the now. And that trouble is that we project into the future all the time, but we really aren't there unless we want to be there, then we're not here. And so we're quite complex. And then it comes up all these questions about, well, who are we now? And is there a self? And of course, there's many Jungian analysts who've explored the aspect of the self. Stanislav Grof and his wife, Christina, were into the big. And have any of you read The Stormy Search for the Self? I mean, it's really quite a tome to read. Yeah, so I hope that we started off with the idea of mandalas and creativity, and we came to drawing the mandalas. I hope that the whole idea of mandalas, when Jean asked me to do this, I said, well, I think the only way to really get into a mandala is to draw one. And hopefully that will make you have a new look at Jung's mandalas and what he actually meant by it. When he drew the first lot, he drew one every single day, and he said, I watched my psychic progression. I watched my psychic growth through my drawings. That's what he said. So we can all grow. I see my psychic growth. I see some of my mandalas I draw. I was showing somebody here, and some of them are actually depicting traumatic moments in my life. Well, they don't always have to, of course. They can depict happy ones. They don't have to depict just moments. They can be, like Jung said, he drew every day for about a month, and he followed his psyche developing in that time through the mandalas. So take your mandala home and say, this is a manifestation of my psyche and how it was operating tonight, and let it talk to you, because it will. If you open up to it, it will talk to you. And then nothing is right or wrong. And some are, they're all beautiful. Some are more colourful than others. Some are quieter, you know, but they're all you. They're all who you are. They make up who you are as a unique person. And that's the important thing. Are there any questions? That's right. Absolutely. As I showed with my client, my Parkinson's client, she started doing portraits. And I initially was disappointed that she was doing portraits because I wanted her to do mandalas. But I didn't say that to her. And I was very interested in what the process was for her. But each process is different. And with Jenny, you might have seen that she scribbled a lot. And gradually I began to realise that her scribbling was the young child, the inner child that hadn't developed properly, coming out and growing through the process. And looking back at all her, over a period of about 2 or 3 years, her process of individuation was happening, and the mandalas was showing it. So, you know, she grew from a young child to a young woman quite well through the mandalas. And then there are other times when you can draw a mandala and you can be thinking of something. Maybe you're worried about a medical condition in the body, which has happened to me. It's happened to me a few times. And I've looked and I thought, oh, I better go and see a doctor. That doesn't look good. And follow it up. And so a mandala can actually tell you, go and get some medical help. You need it. Or a mandala can say, you're not really sick. Get over it. There's plenty of growth here. You're not going to die. You're going to be well. And I remember having major surgery a few years ago and thinking, I'm not going to get over this. I'm just too sick. I was sick for months. And I did a mandala. And what I found was a tree. I somehow managed to draw a tree. And I realised that the tree was not just sitting on arid ground. It was sitting on ground where the roots had gone into the ground. It was growing. And there was greenery on the tree. So I knew I was going to get better. The mandala told me that. So there's great value in doing your own mandalas. And I don't do them all the time, but I don't, you know, if you get the idea I'm sitting there doing mandalas every day, forget it, because I don't. But I do it in times of great introspection. I want to go more than just a short meditation or a contemplation. I want to go further, then a mandala is the best way to go. So get yourself a sketchbook and crayons and go for it whenever you feel like it. It's a very therapeutic thing to do. Anything else? Sorry? Yeah.
Awareness or consciousness before they have, like, before they see it as more than just a drawing. So is there something that you develop in them so they can then look at it and understand something about themselves other than that they've just drawn a picture?
Okay, so if I rephrase that and I say the counselling process is something that has to be trusted, and it's a process that's outside my control or their control. I've got tools, strategies, and I can control it to a certain degree, but essentially it's the process. If the process is going along at the right way, the client and the therapist make a good connection and they want to talk and the therapist listens appropriately, then yes, that's where it goes. And then it is the counselling process can be the catalyst that can inspire, but it's up to the therapist probably to suggest that to the client. They won't sit there and, let's say, Carl Jung themselves, they won't sit there and say, oh, I think I've reached a certain level in my counselling process and I think it's time for me to do a mandala. I don't think so. So it has to be directed from the therapist to the client, but in such a way as the client saying, well, it seems that the counselling process has reached a point where the client might be amenable to trying a mandala and giving them the choice. Because invariably, if you ask the client, you say, I want you to do this, they won't want to. That's human nature. I don't know, did I answer your question?
Do you find that often they're at a point of consciousness where it's something in it, or is it something else?
Both. They mightn't, when they're engaged in the counselling process, they're not aware of it being processed. They're just talking. When they're very traumatised, that is. But gradually, with some insight. Now, one important point I have to say is that when a client does a mandala, the first thing I do is not interpret their mandala. I never do that. I say to them, take this home with you and let it talk to you, but may I take a photo of it so we can share it when you come back. You don't have to bring your painting or your drawing in then, or you can if you want to. So I think a lot of therapy has to be trusting the process. Once the process starts, then you're both in the stream of consciousness that's traveling towards something. One would hope it would be insight. And invariably it is, of course. That is the ultimate goal, but the therapist doesn't start off with that. The therapist hopes that the person will build insight, because don't we all gain insight into ourselves when we have a conversation with somebody else? I mean, that's the power of a conversation, isn't it? To just listen. There's great power in listening, more so than talking. So I think that tonight we've managed to explore the mandala from a few angles, but it's an ongoing process with mandalas, which I think Jung himself found that they develop and they grow as you develop and you grow. And we all continue to grow no matter how old we are. And we strive to develop wisdom, most of us, but and you also asked, did you have to be intelligent? Did you? About self-awareness. Well, everyone's self-aware to a point. Yeah. Yes. I mean, if a therapist encourages the client to do a mandala, then the client might agree to do the mandala to please the therapist rather than do it for their own personal insight. But maybe out of the process of doing it, they begin to develop insight and they may want to keep on doing it because it's exciting. Because once a client gets to a point where they want to explore themselves, that's a point when the therapist knows that they're on their own journey now and they're going to discover who they are if they're encouraged to and they want to. So insight grows out of therapeutic conversations. You can't make it happen. Any other questions? No? There's what? What my insights? To understanding it. There have been a few people, and I've just said, oh, well, this is your work of art. Take it home and know it's a manifestation of your inner creativity in your psyche. And if it talks to you, it talks to you. You can come back and discuss it, or you don't have to. That's right.
You've got a problem in your body. You've got a problem in your body, and it can search it out mentally.
Yeah.
It can look like you might have something problem with your back or thyroid or something. In mine, I can think, well, I had a thyroid test today. And I thought, whoa, look at that. Right there, you know, with a scan today, and I looked at my mandala and I thought, geez, that's something that came up in a scan. I thought, wow, you know, it just really hits home on occasions. You know, if you've got something you think, well, you better go and do some more checks, or you know, go and you know, some people have got a problem with their back or something and it shows up, or kidneys or something going on. It's amazing. It's like a barometer.
It is actually. It is.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? If you look at yourself, you think some of the ones who've got blood dripping around through it, you think, oh, what's happening with my blood?
But the amazing part of a mandala is that it has all these possibilities within it, because it's an outward expression of the amazing possibilities we've got within us. Isn't that? Wouldn't you agree? You know, and I think it. If we're all thinking people here, and we all want to search for ourselves, that's why we're here, really. The search for the self, always the search for the self. And the mandala is a great way of helping us to get there, isn't it? Well, if there's nothing else, thank you for coming, and thank you for taking part in the mandala drawing. And I hope that it will stay with you for a while and you'll go on to do more. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you at another meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to say thank you for Kirstin. Kirstin's always goes the extra mile with her work, and a lot of people have requested that Kirstin come back for a full day with her drumming.
Do you like doing collage? We could do mandalas in the morning, collage in the afternoon.
And drumming.
And drumming, oh yes. Well, drumming and mandalas, there's sound mandalas.
It's a circle.
So that would be very good. And there's something, a tiny token of our appreciation. And there's something you can draw the flowers. And also
Say to you, I do run drumming groups on the internet. I have a weekly Zoom drumming group with my time. Means that they don't have to be Catholic. They can be anything. So drumming on Zoom is actually quite a good thing to do. We could even have a drumming group.
yeah, that's how Also, John Mandala have some little thing to say thank you for your auditing with your audit that keeps us all good.
You only get that if there's no complaints in the audit.
to say thank you very much for. I'd like to say thank you for Willem coming along tonight, because our lovely Robbie couldn't be here. He normally does this, but it's good that you could step in for us. It's really great. And lovely, sorry, Georgia did come in too, so it's really good to see you. Good to see people, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, Willem, for me, because being a speaker, it's very comforting to know there's an IT person on the side.
And also for Richard and Trish, there's something you can go and spoil Trish. Oh, he deserves it. Oh, he needs to be spoiled. And Jeff. Jeff, there's something to do for your newsletter to say thank you very much. We appreciate it. So much appreciated. And if you like to take the lovely works of art home and put them on the fridge, or look at them and see if it speaks to you. Do some more.
It's a talent one should not allow to.
Well, don't do
Yeah, but you know, there's in the office of Sydney Green Street, they're all big fixtures. She is really good. Yeah. She almost it's true. Yeah, but I still know. Yes, the sidewalks, broadbands, I see the big steel. But the treasurer's report.
Oh, yeah.
We need to have the auditors.
Yeah, that's with it, isn't it? It's with
It's
it.
with it.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
there's three pages there.
I didn't peruse it.
Yeah, there's a white page of the income and expenditure, and then a white similar page with the audit report, and the green one, which is now my rambling diatribe about it.
Yeah. And I'll bring it to the next committee meeting. Everyone can sign it.
Oh yeah, we need, yeah. So this is a part of what you submitted. Yeah. Yeah. What I gave you is a part of what you submitted. Yeah. Okay, Richard. Thank you. We got it.